Can sourdough and yeast work together to make a healthy bread that's actually soft, airy, and fast enough for a busy schedule? That's exactly what I'm making today. This whole wheat focaccia is high in fiber, thanks to flax, but it still bakes up incredibly soft and light. Let's look at the ingredients. I'm using a good amount of whole wheat here, which gives us more fiber and a deeper nutty flavor. And this is my flax soaker. I soaked it for a couple of hours before I'm adding it to a dough. Here's also my sourdough starter for flavor and yeast for speed. I use just a little oil in the pan and on top of the bread, so the bread still feels light and less calorie dense. For the seeds, I'm finishing this bread with white sesame, more flax seeds, and black sesame seeds on top. Today I'm using my mixer, but if you want to hand mix it, I have a separate video on that too. Add everything to the bowl, but not all the water at once. I start with part of the water first so that the flour can hydrate and the mixer can pull the dough together before I add the rest. If you add all water at the beginning, the dough might feel very floppy and it will be really hard to manage. So spreading the water out and letting the gluten develop step by step is what makes the high hydration focaccia feel more strong enough and hold all those bubbles during the long proof. Okay, so I am adding yeast and salt at last and start mixing on a low speed. I always start on a low speed first. That helps the flour to absorb the water evenly. Once the dough starts coming together, I increase the speed and slowly add the remaining water. This helps to create a smoother and more elastic dough. Now I mix the dough on a higher speed until I can feel the gluten starting to develop. The dough should go from rough and shaggy to smoother and stronger. Now let's take a look at the dough. This is a moment when I can add the soaked flax at the end. I prefer to add it after the dough has already gained some structure because flax can make the dough slippery if it goes too early. After I added my soaker, I let the mixer evenly mix it, and then we can move into next step. The high hydration really works well for this recipe because it gives the dough enough moisture to stay soft, pillowy, and airy, but not so much that it becomes impossible to handle. The whole wheat and the soaked flax both hold on onto water, so even though it's a high hydration, the dough still feels strong, smooth, and beautiful to work with. Let's also check the dough temperature. And it matters because it helps you to understand how long this dough should ferment before baking. It's a guide for you to understand how fast or slow your dough will rise. And that helps you to control the flavor and the texture. In this video, I am giving you more than just a recipe. I am sharing a technique or a guide. Little tools like this temperature check can help you bake high quality bread at home, no matter what season or kitchen you're in. Now I'll mix a little oil with water to make a loose emulsion. This will help me to spread the oil more evenly, especially in the pan. And it's a small step, but it helps the focaccia bake up evenly with a softer crust and better texture, without needing a lot of oil in the dough itself. I line the pan with parchment paper and oil it well. This keeps the focaccia from sticking and then helps give the bottom that lovely golden finish. This is also one of the reasons I love focaccia so much. It's a bread that looks impressive, but the shaping is actually very forgiving. Next, I'll move the dough into a pan and gently stretch it, just a little, to encourage the dough to hold its shape better. This dough is at 74 Fahrenheit or 23 Celsius. I will proof this dough for 2 hours at 75 Fahrenheit. But if your kitchen is cooler, say below 75 Fahrenheit, you want to keep it longer, maybe 30 minutes or an extra hour, because the dough will ferment more slowly at lower temperature. On the other hand, if your dough is warmer than 75, especially above 80 Fahrenheit, it will ferment faster, so you'll need less time. So watch it closely and be ready to bake sooner rather than later. Here's my dough after 2 hours of bulk fermentation at 75 Fahrenheit. The dough has doubled and has grown beautifully. And this is the kind of rice I want before adding the topping. I brush a little oil on top so the seeds stick and the surface stays soft and glossy. Now it's a time to add seeds, and I add them one by one, so I can control the pattern and I make sure the top looks evenly covered. I'm using white sesame, black sesame, and more flax seeds on top. The seeds add crunch, flavor, and also more fiber, which is one of the reasons I love this version. When I spread them out gently, the whole pan gets good finish. This is the kind of bread I would make on a week when I want something healthy, but still want some of the comfort of fresh bread in the house. I let this dough rest for about 30 minutes more before baking. That last 30-minute little proof helps it relax and puff up just a bit more. This pays off in a softer crumb later. Bake it in a preheated oven at 450 Fahrenheit until it's golden and baked through. I'm looking for beautiful color on top and then deep focaccia aroma in the kitchen. It should take about 20 to 25 minutes to bake. Let's take a look at our final baked focaccia. Let's look at the crumb. This is exactly what I want from the healthy bread. It should be soft, airy, and tender, but still hearty enough to feel truly satisfying. When you pull it apart, you can see how light and open it is. The air pockets are big enough to feel it pillowy in your mouth, but the dough still has enough structure that it doesn't feel fragile or dry. That's the magic of high hydration. Whole wheat and a long controlled fermentation all work together. The whole wheat gives its soft nutrients, almost like toasted wheat, but it's still mellow, not heavy or grainy. And the flax adds that bit of extra fiber without making the crumb too dense. Sourdough and yeast are working as a team here. The sourdough brings that subtle tang and it helps digestibility, while the yeast gives us speed and a lift. I couldn't resist and I turned it into sandwich. I'm using some burrata and a homemade pesto. Because once you bake the loaf like this, you want to enjoy it in a way that really shows it off. And this is one of my favorite parts of baking, taking something simple and turning to a meal that feels really special. Healthy bread should still feel like a treat, and this focaccia absolutely does. It tastes like a real focaccia, the kind you'd happily serve at a dinner party, just with better ingredients and a little more intention behind it. You can taste the oil, the toasted seeds, and a soft, bready crumb, and it still feels like an indulgence. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next ones. Thank you for watching.